He did not kiss him. He did not even hug him. Finn simply nodded, his eyes shining with profound connection, and stepped back into his own house. Closing the doors softly, Adrian stood on the porch for a long time, listening to the waves, feeling the unsteady, exhilarating promise of balance. The difficult work had just begun. The estate sale was a disaster of organized chaos. Shoppers, looking more like vultures than collectors, swarmed the house, picking over the remnants of Adrian's childhood. The sheer volume of his grandmother's life, the antique silver, the bizarre ceramic dogs, the mountains of brittle lace was suffocating. Finn, true to his word, showed up before 8 a.m. with 2 mugs of strong coffee and an air of unflappable readiness. He moved through the crowd with an easy confidence, directing traffic and even successfully negotiating the price of a taxidermy, my ideal for an elderly woman. Around noon, Adrian retreated to the attic. It was the darkest, dustiest space, reserved for the things nobody wanted, the things Adrian feared most, the untouched remnants of his own teenage years. He found a small, battered, wooden box beneath a pile of old blankets. Inside the box were 2 things: a worn mixtape cassette labeled Doug Haven, August 2007 in Finn's looping handwriting, and a dried, brown corsage from their senior prom. The sight of the corsage's silly, wilted symbol of a hopeful time before they knew ambition would tear them apart hit Adrian with a staggering force. It wasn't the dust or the exhaustion. It was the sharp, specific memory, the Finn fastening, the Boughton iron in that night. His hands slightly trembling, Adrian sat down hard on the floorboards, the wave of grief and regret washing over him so completely that he couldn't breathe. He hadn't cried over Finn when he left. He had replaced tears with scales, emotion with technique. Now 10 years later, the tears came, hot and messy. A minute later, the attic door creaked open. Finn didn't speak, he just stood in the doorway, the light from the hallway outlining his silhouette against the gloom. He saw the box, the cassette, and the defeated curve of Adrian's back. Finn walked over and sat down beside him, his shoulder barely brushing Adrian's. He waited, letting the silence absorb the ragged sounds of Adrian's breathing. "That corsage," Finn finally said, his voice quiet. "I think I stepped on it later that night. Didn't I?" Trying to slow dance to a terrible slow song. Adrian let out a choked, wet laugh that was half sob. "You did. You blamed the DJ." "I was an excellent blame shifter." Finn agreed. He reached over, not to comfort or to touch, but just to take the dusty wooden box and close the lid gently, shielding Adrian from the weight of the memories. "It's too much," Adrian whispered, running his hands over his face, trying to scrub the emotion away. "It's all here, Finn, everything I left. Everything I tried to forget." "You didn't forget it," Finn corrected softly. "You just placed it in a vault. And now, the vault is open, and all the air pressure is rushing out." Finn lifted his hand, and Adrian braced himself for a platitude or a pat. Instead, Finn's thumb landed right at Adrian's jawline, beneath his ear, where the skin was soft. He tilted Adrian's chin up slightly, his gaze warm and patient. "You don't have to be controlled right now, Adrian," Finn said. "You're safe." And then, Finn closed the remaining distance. The kiss was everything the last 10 years were not hurried, gentle, and profoundly honest. It tasted like coffee and dust and the sharp relief of being found after being lost. It wasn't the aggressive, hungry kiss of teenagers desperate to seize a moment before it vanished. It was the slow, weighted press of 2 in recognizing that the connection between them was not a memory, but a permanent, vital structure. Adrian felt the 10-year wall he had built crumble completely. He leaned into the touch, letting his rigid posture give way, gripping the fabric of Finn's sweater with a desperate knee he hadn't known he possessed. The cello, the career, the ambition, it all faded into background noise. In that moment, Adrian was simply Adrian, and Finn was his anchor. When Finn finally pulled back, he rested his forehead against Adrian's, their shared breath mingling. "This," Finn murmured, his voice thick. "This is what balance feels like." Adrian, not running, just holding steady. Adrian nodded, unable to speak. The first true, uncontrolled smile in years stretching across his face. The attic was still dusty, the estate sale still raging downstairs, and the choices of his future were still impossibly complex. But for the first time, he wasn't standing alone against the chaos. He had Finn, and that was the truest note he'd ever played.